Congressman, thank you so much for being here.
Amanda, it's great to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
We are happy to have you, and I want to get into the success that you've had standing up to what seems like the pro-crime and anti-police D.C. city leadership. But I want to first ask about the conditions of the January 6th defendants. Those allegations that they made, are they true? Can you just briefly describe to us the conditions that they're experiencing there at D.C. At Department of Corrections there?
Well, it was a privilege to get to see the folks on Friday afternoon and give them some encouragement and just talk to them. I knew that this coming week or this week I would have Attorney General Merrick Garland in front of me. And so I wanted to ask him about the Sixth Amendment, and that is the right to a speedy trial. And I don't think these J6 defendants have had a speedy trial. And so I talked to him about that. He said that the Department of Justice's responsibility is to protect all rights for citizens, all constitutional rights. And so as a result, I pinned him on the January 6th folks about a speedy trial. And, he claimed to know nothing. And it was a pretty disappointing response from him, but it highlighted to the country the problem that we're having here in that these people, these January 6th defendants, are languishing without a speedy trial and their Sixth Amendment rights are being violated.
Yeah, such an important issue, and so few people have had the courage like you to speak up about it and get it in front of people, because justice should be blind. That's what we've been promised our entire Republic's history, and for most of it, it has been, but the last few years, it doesn't feel that way. I want to turn to the District of Columbia because you are leading on so many aspects of this. The city seems to be content letting the lawlessness that's been going on here the last couple of years just go crazy. They were going to decriminalize carjackings. We had a Senate staffer stabbed in the head just a couple of days ago. Talk about why what the House has done this week is so important to reining that in.
And we also have had a member of Congress, Democrat Angie Craig, assaulted in her apartment complex in the elevator there. And so it was so important that Congress engage here to take down the revised criminal code act that the city of D.C., that their city council put into law. The mayor vetoed it. They overrode her veto. And so Congress, I wrote the bill for Congress to execute and take down this very, very dangerous legislation, which would have accelerated crime in the city. It would not have been good for the citizens of Washington, D.C. And they've got another bill. I've got another bill coming up that deals with the police department, because the D.C. Council has had a temporary bill in place for 2 years now to reimagine the police department. And they wanted to make it permanent. We're going to take that bill down as well, because as a result of their policies, they have lost over 1,100 police officers, almost 1,200 in the last 2 years. And you can't control crime when you don't have law enforcement officers.
That's a stunning number. Wow.
So Sarah, I wanted to dig in on this a little bit because I think I see something interesting happening. And I brought this up a couple days on the show. President Biden has tweeted recently some very gaslighting tweets about how Republicans are the ones who want to defund border agents. Republicans are the party of defunding police. And now with your bill blocking this DC crime bill, you had bipartisan support. Are we getting to the place where Democrats are finally realizing that with respect to border crime, to crime in the interior, crime in our nation's capital, that crime doesn't win with their voters?
Well, absolutely, crime doesn't win with their voters. But we're seeing better leadership. Under Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats were in lockstep because she's threatened them. That's not the way we Republicans work. And we want to bring good legislation forward. And as a result, the Democrats have come on board with us. And my bill, I had 31 of them cross the aisle. In the Senate, 33 of them crossed the aisle and voted with us because it's good legislation. We do the right thing because it's the right thing to do for the country. And then just see what happens. And lo and behold, the president changed his mind. The Senate changed their mind. And as a result, we've got good legislation for the country.
Yeah, that was a big moment when the president reversed himself. That doesn't happen very often in Washington, and a real victory for you and your colleagues who worked so hard to get this right. We're 2 years and 2 months after January 6th, and we're still beginning to learn only the basic facts here. Earlier this week, Congressman Loudermilk put out some compelling evidence that the Democratic January 6th committee knew it was falsely accusing him. They already knew he didn't lead a reconnaissance tour, and yet they chose to accuse him of it anyways, keep the evidence secret. How concerned are you about what we don't know about January 6th? Because if we don't know everything, we can't fix the problems that occurred that day. Kind of crazy to learn about the Loudermilk evidence 2 years and 2 months later, right?
Oh, the Democrats are famous for hiding evidence that they don't want seen. Exculpatory evidence that would show that people have not done wrong. They want to drive a narrative, their narrative, and they want to create the evidence that does it. So I'm thrilled that the thousands upon thousands of hours of videotape has been made available. And I'm certain that we're going to find more evidence out there, what the Democrats wanted to hide, which will prove that that there were serious problems that were really problems that Nancy Pelosi created as Speaker. She was Speaker of the House for 2 years before January the 6th. All of the law enforcement works for the Speaker, and she's the top dog. They run to her drumbeat. And she's going to be held responsible, I believe.
Sir, speaking of maybe hiding footage, or maybe it's just the fact that we're just now seeing it, but this body cam footage from DC police where they are telling January 6th attendees, go ahead. What world are we living in where DC police are embedded in this act and saying these types of things?
Well, it just goes to show you the more video that comes out, the more transparent the process is going to become, and the more that the people of America see really what happened and see that the narrative that the Democrats are driving is a false narrative. And that's the whole thing. The January 6th committee wasn't set up to bring the truth out. It was to drive a preconceived narrative and to create the evidence that basically backs up their narrative. And now that narrative is falling apart because the real evidence, the truth, is coming out. And we will see more and more and more of that in the future. And I'm just happy to see it. And I'm believing that it will be good for our country.
Yeah, it will be. It's so important. Transparency has always been the greatest solution in our country, and you've been bringing so much of it with all the work you've done, sir. I want to turn to a subject. It was kind of a stark admission from one of the Biden cabinet members early this week that I think it was HHS admitted that they've been spending unauthorized funds for Title X, which provides abortion referrals. So tax dollars going to abortion referrals. I know a lot of members of Congress worried about the lack of oversight of so much money being spent right now.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that might have been my question
it was.
To the secretary there. It might have been. But we in Congress have authorizing committees and we have appropriating committees. I'm on an appropriating committee, not an authorizing committee. And it's my firm belief that you do not appropriate money to that which is not authorized. Title X in HHS has not been authorized since 1985. 85.
Wow.
So how in the world is money being appropriated to an unauthorized agency or an unauthorized program in the federal government? That's not the way things work. So until a program is authorized, we should not be appropriating money to it. And the labor secretary there, he was a member of Congress. He was on an authorizing committee for many of his years in Congress. He was on Ways and Means. So, they know what's going on here, and they know it's wrong. And there's a new sheriff in town, and a new Republican majority, and we're going to hold to the authorizing, to appropriating that which is authorized.